Stephanie Ray Clemons was a 54-year-old mother of four from Miramar, Florida. She worked at a hospital and had two sisters. On the morning of May 20th, 2018, a Sunday, Stephanie was at home. She spoke to one of her sisters. Then Stephanie was later seen washing clothes at her apartment's machines. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Densel, and this is Unfound. Have you ever been in a love triangle? No, I don't mean a menage a trois. You know we don't do that kind of stuff on Unfound. I mean a situation where you're in love with someone, but that someone is with somebody else. Or maybe even worse, you're in love with someone, and that someone is lusting after someone else and doesn't even know you exist. My perception is we've all been in that scenario at least once. Well, maybe even more than that. And it can be frustrating, humbling, and depressing. It's like, why doesn't that person see what I see? It's so clear. Granted, sometimes that other person does see the light, breaks up with that other person, and decides to be with you. But oftentimes, that's not what happens. And really, as I look back at those times in my life, now that I'm 49 years old, I made too much of a big deal about them. So much emotional energy wasted. People are going to be with who they're going to be with, and that's just the way it is. And when the topic is disappearances, love triangles abound. In fact, in a few of Unfound's cases, there was more than a triangle, more like a square or pentagon or hexagon. And yes, today we are covering a case that involves a triangle. The people in it: Stephanie Clemons, a man named Tiger, no, not that one, and a girl named Anne. Stephanie was married to Tiger, but he was with Anne, at least most of the time. But this arrangement wasn't based on love at all. It was a triangle of control. And now a summary of the case. This is brought to you by my friend Megan Good's website, charleyproject.org. Stephanie Clemons grew up in Chicago with her two sisters. Then she moved to Tennessee. She had 3 kids there but got divorced. Then she moved to Florida, finding a nice spot in Miramar. It helped that one of her sisters followed her to the Sunshine State. Also along the way, Stephanie hooked back up with a guy from her childhood, Jack Tiger Freeman, and had a son with him. They had an on-again, off-again relationship for several years, but actually got married in late 2016. However, this didn't stop Jack's womanizing ways, with him having a woman on the side. And in the months leading up to her disappearance, Stephanie lived by herself. So, on May 20th, 2018, Stephanie got up that Sunday morning like she usually did. She spoke to her sister Sylvia. Stephanie said she planned to wash clothes at her apartment's laundromat. And later that morning, another resident did see Stephanie doing just as she planned. Nobody heard from Stephanie after this. Stephanie wasn't reported missing until 5 days later, and neither her apartment nor her car showed any signs of what might have happened to her. She was never seen again. This is another recent disappearance Unfound is covering, so please be looking for new developments as this year progresses. However, there are some questions that have been popping up in the last 15 months. Number 1, was somebody actually sneaking into Stephanie's apartment and deleting messages on her phone while she slept? Number 2, what exactly was the paperwork issue Stephanie and Jack were having that no one else seemed to know about? And number 3, why have telltale cell phone pings not been enough to bring charges in this case? Stephanie's family believes only one person should be considered in her disappearance: Jack Tiger Freeman. The guest for this episode is Stephanie's sister, Sylvia Ray. Unfound news. There's another Unfound meetup happening. This one is in Houston, Texas on August 24th at the Black Walnut Cafe. Please find Cherie Biggs in the Unfound podcast discussion group on Facebook if you'd like to attend. Next, the plan is to have the third anniversary episode play on September 6th and the third update episode play on September 13th. Those dates will correspond with me traveling to Pennsylvania and traveling to Canada for a week. I anticipate both the live show and the think tank will be on hiatus during this time as well. Or maybe I'll do a show from Canada if I have Wi-Fi. Finally, I'm going to be in Orlando from August 29th to September 2nd for a disc golf tournament. If there are any listeners who might like to get together in the evenings, I would certainly be up for that. Please contact me privately. Maybe we can make a spontaneous meetup happen. Where you can find Unfound. Unfound supports accounts on Podomatic, iTunes, Stitcher, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, and Facebook. On Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, please join us on YouTube for the Unfound live show. Contribute to Unfound at patreon.com/Unfound podcast. This week, I need to thank Steve. You can also contribute at PayPal, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. That is also the email address. Merchandise, the books at Amazon.com in both ebook and print form. Do not forget the reviews. Shirts at unfound-podcast.myshopify.com. Cards at makeplayingcards.com/sell/unfound podcast. And please mention Unfound at all true crime websites and forums. Thank you.
I'm so fortunate to have on this episode of Unfound the sister of Stephanie Clemons, Sylvia Ray. Sylvia, welcome to Unfound.
Yes. Thank you.
Let's start here. You are Stephanie's sister. How many siblings do you have, brothers and sisters, etc.?
It's just me, Stephanie, and our youngest sister, Dieta, who lives in Chicago.
Okay. 3 girls, and you are...
3 girls, no boys.
No boys, okay. A lot of estrogen in that family. Okay. Are you Stephanie's older sister, younger sister?
No, I'm the Stephanie is the oldest, and we're
Okay.
a year. She's 56 and I'm 55.
Okay.
And then my younger sister that's in her 30s.
Wow. Okay. A little bit of an age difference there, but you and Stephanie
Right.
very close in age. Were you very?
Because her birthday, well, my birthday is May the 19th, and hers is May 28th.
Oh my, you're almost exactly a year younger.
Right.
That's interesting. Okay. How did you two get along growing up? You're close in age, but were you close personally? Were you similar? How would you explain?
We were close because before my younger sister came along, as you know, growing up back in the day, whoever is the oldest has to watch out for their sister. So like when she goes somewhere, of course I had to tag along. That was the rule of being the oldest sister. At first, I'm pretty sure it was difficult because, you don't want to have to carry, take your younger sister with you with, when you're going out having fun. But she got used to it, and we became close.
Good. And it was only 1 year. It's not like it was 5 or 6 years. I'm going to guess maybe as many sisters do you swap clothes back and forth, share clothes and things growing up and
Well, I
and
did
stuff?
with my younger sister, but with Stephanie, I did with my younger sister Dieta, but with my sister Stephanie was always smaller.
Okay.
She was smaller than me, but we did swap shoes.
Okay. All right, gotta have your shoes. Gotta have your shoes.
Yeah, exactly. And we did shopping because she loves her sales.
Okay.
She loves her sales. She loves to watch scary movies, and she just loved to spend time with her family.
And so you say, what was she into in high school? Was she in
Stephanie
sports
was,
or
oh
academics?
my
What was she
goodness.
into?
Stephanie was a pom-pom dance, pom-pom person.
Huh.
That's a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
She was a pom-pom dancer. She liked, back then, she liked to draw.
Oh, okay, like freehand,
Yeah,
like sketching.
like sketching things. Yes.
Uh-huh. Okay. And did you and she share similar interests, or did you go in a different direction?
I was on the Pep Squad.
Okay.
So Pep Squad is you kind of helping the cheerleaders and the pom poms out,
Mm-hmm.
getting the everybody, as they say, pumped up.
Yeah, okay. All right, yeah, get them going for like
Get them
basketball
going.
games or okay, like for
Exactly, for the basketball games and the football games.
okay. And so she was a year older than you.
Right.
Sounds like similar interests and everything. How was her personality? Was she really outgoing? Was she shy? What would you
There,
say?
there was if you really knew my sister, for those who knew her,
Mm-hmm.
if you needed something and she had it, she was there to help.
Mm-hmm. Very giving person.
She was a very giving person. It wouldn't, like, she has 4 kids. I have one.
Mm-hmm.
If I buy something for her and she didn't like it, because she would always tell me I'm the oldest, I'm supposed to watch out for you all.
Mm-hmm.
So it was things that I had to like sneak and do, or if I go to the
Mm.
grocery store and I get something, uh, she couldn't be with me a lot of times because we were arguing. We was actually standing there arguing in the store about who was going to pay for it. She didn't want me to
Mm-hmm.
pay for it. She wanted to pay for it.
So she was very protective of you, even though she was only a year older. She was still very protective of you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Even as you got into your teenage years, and did this continue into your 20s and 30s as well? What would you say?
Exactly. The same.
The
The
same.
same way.
Okay.
The same way.
You're always going to be the younger sister, no matter what age you
No
are. That
matter
there
what.
were you weren't on the
Even
same
in my
level. She was going to see you
exactly.
as the younger sister. That's just the way it was.
Even when I went to high school, I was known as Stephanie's little sister. I didn't get my actual name said until my
Uh,
senior year.
okay, Stephanie's younger sister. Okay, that's a good one, Sylvia. Okay, now I think I'm starting to really understand what was going on there. I see. Okay, okay. All right, so you're in high school. She's leading the way. You're close behind her, maybe a grade behind, being the 1 year
Right,
grade behind. So when she was a senior, you were a junior.
right.
What did she do after high school? Did she go to college, or what'd she do?
She went to a 2-year university there in Chicago. Then eventually she left
Mm-hmm.
and she moved to what was it, to Memphis, Tennessee. She was
Wow.
there for a while. That's when she was married to her first husband.
Okay, and we'll talk about that in a second. So maybe
Right.
the listeners need to understand. So you all grew up in the Chicago area,
Exactly. We grew
and
up in Chicago.
okay, and
And that's
we have to remind everybody that she disappeared in Florida. In fact, you live in Florida now as well, but everything got started.
correct.
Your family was in the Chicago area.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So okay. So she moves to Tennessee, and what was she doing for work and everything? What was she doing?
When she was in Tennessee, if matter of fact, before she left Chicago, she got married to
Oh, okay.
yeah, she was married.
Okay.
And she was married to Philippe Ray Sr.
Okay.
So that left me and Dieta still in
Mm,
Chicago, and they had 3 kids together. They had Philippe Jr., Felicia, and Earlene.
okay.
And eventually she moved to Florida, but
Hmm.
I think somewhere in between is when she got a divorce from him.
Okay. How long would you say, and what years approximately? I'm not going to ask you to pick out month and days. But what year would you say that she got married and started having kids and everything? Approximately.
It was before 87, 2008. Yeah, it was before 87. Yeah,
Okay.
87.
Okay. So she got married maybe 86, 87. And how long would you
Well,
say that she was married
it
to
was
Philippe?
before 80. Well, she was 86. It may have been 84, 85, but she was married to him for a couple of years.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then she got a divorce. Of course, she knew Jack Freeman from Chicago because he
Mm-hmm.
lived there also. So
Mm-hmm.
they used to date on and off.
Okay, we'll talk about him in a second. I
Yeah.
just want to concentrate on the relationship and her kids.
Right.
So she ended up having 3 kids with Philippe. They were only married a few years, but got divorced.
Correct.
And how did she handle the divorce? Pretty well, landed on her feet, or how? What would you say?
She had her ups and downs, but
Mm,
she did good,
okay. And
Yeah,
and
because she did love him, and
mhm,
even with the divorce, when you with someone for so long, you still care for them, so they still had they
right,
still would talk every now and then,
right.
to
Sure,
check up on each other.
sure. And they did have kids together, so they were going to probably be intertwined with that for a while. So they probably had to communicate back and forth. Did she get custody of her kids?
Yes, the kids was with her.
Okay, okay. So she ends up in Tennessee. She gets divorced, but in what year do you think that she actually ended up getting to Florida, where she ended up living?
Maybe before 2000, maybe 1999 or something like that. 1999, 1998. She
Okay,
was
okay. And do you believe that her ex-husband stayed in Tennessee, or did he go back to Chicago? What did he do?
no, he's oh my goodness. He's somewhere in Florida. I
Okay,
think he's about 6 hours away from us. Yeah, 6 or 7 hours away from us.
okay, okay. And so, how was it? You and were in Chicago, but you ended up in Florida too. When did you move down? Did you move to Florida because she was already here? How did that all happen?
I know because she was here and I was homesick. I didn't want to stay in Chicago. I would get married in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just too cold. It was too cold. I had my daughter in 87. And things just wasn't working out for me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I left Chicago, I went to Tennessee because that's where my husband, his family is originally from, is Memphis. And then I started getting homesick, and I didn't want to go back to Chicago, even though I miss my mom and family in
Yeah.
Deetta.
Yeah.
But Stephanie was here, so I'm like, okay, it's time for a change.
Mm-hmm.
So we came here. I think it was 2000, and we have been here for 15 years.
Okay, so approximately 2003, 2004.
24, right?
Okay. So you moved to. She's already here. You moved to Florida. Do you see each other often? Just you and
Yes, we
she. Just
did.
you and her. Do you live close to each other?
We were only 30 minutes away
30
from each
minutes.
other.
Okay, so pretty close. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have your your daughter's with you? Did she move with you?
Yes, because she was a teenager, Tiffany,
Okay.
my daughter
Okay.
Tiffany, and my husband. So we live 30 minutes from Stephanie.
Okay. And then Stephanie also had her children from Philippe, and we're going to talk
Kids.
kids, children from them. And we're going to talk about another guy that came into her life and who's going to going to play a prominent part in this discussion from now on. His name is Jack Friedman, but I guess that his nickname is Tiger. I know that's how you refer to him. Let's just talk about him in general right now. We'll get into specifics later, but in general, how did Stephanie know him? How did you know him, etc.?
We knew Tiger from Chicago. Him and his family lived on the same block as my grandmother.
Okay.
So my mom would bring us over there to my grandmother's house when she had to work, or for us to spend time with my grandmother, and that's how we got to know his family and Tiger.
Okay.
And at some point of time, him and my sister was boyfriend and girlfriend back then.
Way back in the day, like back
Way back in
like
the day,
80s,
yeah.
1980s.
Right.
Okay. So they knew each other. You knew, as teenagers then, going.
Exactly. When we was in, oh my goodness, we was in grammar school.
Okay.
Like
So,
eighth grade.
all
Back
right. So
then.
maybe 10 years older. So this is a guy that both you and Stephanie knew for a long time. And then she ended up dating him for a while back then. I guess things didn't work out for a while. She gets married to another guy, moves away. And then somehow they got back in contact with each other. Do you even know how that happened?
It's always, they was always in each other's lives. And at one point when I had already left Chicago, they were back together.
And so was he coming to Florida to see her, or what was it?
Who came here with him?
She moved to Florida with him. So after she got divorced, they ended up getting back together and decided to move to Florida.
Because his dad already lives here, was living here before he came, before he actually moved here.
All right. So they moved here to Florida. They have a son together whose name is Tobias.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So now you're in Florida. You're married with your daughters here. You're all here. You're living about 30 minutes away from Stephanie. Stephanie is with, at least when you move here, she is with Jack Tiger Freeman. They have a son together. She has her other kids. And how would you say things were when you got here those next few years? How was everything with Stephanie and Tiger? How was their relationship, etc.?
It had a good moments, and then it had the bad moments when they would argue or disagree when it came to the kids. And I guess things finally got heated up, and that's when they decided to go head on and sell the house. And they separated for a while, but then they got back together. So like I said, in their relationship, it was on and off.
On and off. Okay. All right. And at some point, he also got another girlfriend. At some point, I'm not saying his personal life, but at some point, he ended up meeting another woman as well.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Okay. And do you think that, and Stephanie, do you believe Stephanie had already moved on from him at the time?
At the time, he had moved on, but I don't know how they ended up getting back together, seeing each other. But they did, and then that's when I found out about, I know her as Ann, but her name is Deborah, but she goes by Ann.
Okay.
So it was at an apartment where he met her. That's when they was living together again at a different location. And Ann was staying at the apartment nearby. And from what my sister was saying, she used to watch the kids for her sometimes. So that's how they met Ann.
Okay. So Ann used to watch Stephanie and Tiger's kids.
I think it had something to do. She was telling me about somebody's kids she used to watch. So I'm thinking that maybe it was one of the kids that she used to watch.
Okay. Now, at some point, though, in those preceding years, before she disappeared in 2018, Tiger and Stephanie, though, did get married, but it seemingly didn't tell anybody. When did you find out that they got married?
I found out last year.
Oh my.
Yeah, I found out last year because I don't know what we was talking, and I guess it was in general talking about. I guess she was saying something about him to me, and she felt that people that she said people sometimes change.
Mm-hmm.
And I told her, I said, your heart wants what your heart wants. No one can tell you, what to do or what not to do. I told her I just want her to be happy. And that's when she told me, she said, well, uh, we got married. No, she said, we're married. And I started laughing because I thought she was just playing.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, when did you get married? And she was like, we got married in December. And so I told her, I said, well, I just want you to be happy. And at that point, I still didn't believe her. I had my daughter, Tiffany, to go and find out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she called me back. My daughter called me and said, yeah, Ma, she and Tiger are married. They got married in December 27, 2016.
So once again, there was this other woman, Anne, though, that was in Tiger's life, and still he got married to Stephanie in December
Correct.
of 2016, approximately like a year and a half before she disappeared. Did she offer up any reason when you found that out that nobody was invited? Did they just go down to the courthouse and and do it that way, I guess?
They had to have went to the courthouse because she knew that we would have had said something.
So you wouldn't, just to put it lightly, you wouldn't have been in favor of her getting married to Tiger?
No.
Honestly, can you explain why? See, I mean, you've known him since you guys were in grade school, but still, all these years later, you're like, no, I don't think you should do that. Can you give the listeners a reason why?
From what I had noticed about him, when they get into an argument or he gets upset with one of the kids,
Mm-hmm.
he would do sneaky things. He would turn the lights off. He would turn the water off. It's things that he would do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And my mom used to tell me trouble that he would get into, and his mom would always get him out of jail.
Okay.
So he's not somebody that you would want your child to marry.
Okay. All right. So he would get into some trouble sometimes, going to jail.
Yeah, he has a history.
Okay. What kind of crimes, if you can say?
Breaking, like on my grandmother block, there's like a trains that used to go by that, have products and stuff in it. And him and some friends would break into the trains and get items off the train, takes things off the trains.
Oh my. Okay.
So
All
this
right.
was information that I was finding out, from my mom, because, back then I'm young, I'm in grammar school. I know that she, I would see her with him, but I'm not thinking about anything.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And do you think that Stephanie knew these things about him as well? Did she understand that he would get in trouble and go to jail? She know about his history?
I don't really think that she paid attention to all of that because back then they was just boyfriend, girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
But then when they get into argument stuff, she would see what the things that he would do, the childish things that he would do when he was angry with her. So I believe she saw more of the other side of him.
Okay.
I mean, because there was times that he had his little niceness, but when by us knowing him, that's what made me like keep that distance and not trust him.
Okay. So when they got married in December of 2016, I mean, did they end up living together the way you remember it? And this is just, of course, a few years ago now. Like into 2017, were they back to living together once they got married, or what was the situation?
17, I don't. I don't think that they was together anymore. She was living somewhere else, but she was still seeing him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you believe that
And
Anne, this other woman, was still in the picture as well for Tiger?
he was still in the picture, and I think that she probably thought that, okay, if we get married, go ahead and marry him,
Mm-hmm.
that Anne wouldn't be in the picture anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But then my mom said when she talked to her that she found out that yes, they was still seeing each other, and she was upset because I guess she thought that it would stop.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Once they got married, she thought that he'd just be a one-woman man, and that wasn't the way it worked out.
Okay? Exactly.
All right. Do you know if Stephanie and Anne ever had words between each other? Was there any confrontations between the two of them, to your knowledge?
From what I was told, yes, they did have
They did.
words.
Okay. All right. All right. So we got this it seems to me, from my point of view, a somewhat complex situation going on that Stephanie, of course, she also has a son with Tiger. We're just going to call him Tiger, even though his real name is Jack Freeman. So she has a son with him, but he's with, he is with this other woman, Anne. But then he and Stephanie get married, but he doesn't stop seeing this other woman. So you have this love triangle going on. They're not living together, etc. Seems a little complicated.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure, and I just want to make sure the listeners can appreciate that as well. Okay, and you and did you know, being that you're living very close to where Stephanie was, and you knew Tiger, etc. I mean, what were you telling her? You know, getting into 2018 regarding all of this. You know, what was Stephanie saying about all of this, and what were you telling her?
I was telling her because they were still communicating. I was telling her that she just need to, just let him go. Just let him go
Mm-hmm.
because he was still saying Anne. And so from what she was telling me, well, they wasn't living together. And I guess at this point, she just didn't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
She
Okay.
didn't care anymore.
Okay.
Because, he would tell Anne one thing and he would tell Stephanie something completely different. So there was many a times that she was telling me that her and Anne would sit on the phone and talk about what Tiger had told Anne and what Tiger would tell Stephanie.
Mm-hmm. So at some point, what you're saying is Anne and Stephanie somehow ended up managing to get along at least a little bit.
I would say arguing.
Arguing. Okay.
Because yes, she wanted Stephanie to stay away from Tiger, but at the end of the day, Stephanie is not going to Tiger's apartment or anything or where he was living.
Mm-hmm.
He was coming to Stephanie. So how you going to tell Stephanie to stay away from him when he's coming to where she's at?
Okay.
He has the key to her apartment.
Right. Right, and we maybe should talk about that. At least at the time of her disappearance, Stephanie was living by herself.
She was living behind me at the apartment, her and Tobias. Then out of the blue, I find out that she's back talking with Tiger, living with Tiger. And she was looking for an apartment for herself and something less, cheaper than what she was paying here.
Okay.
And Tiger told her about the apartment over in Miramar because it's an area that he hangs out. So he knew about this apartment, got her to come over there. She looked at it. She moved in, and he had the key to her apartment.
And did she know that he had a key to her apartment? Do you know?
She gave him a key to the apartment. So I'm thinking when she went to that apartment, she thought that they were going to be together. because why would I give you a key?
Yeah. But they didn't end up being together, though, because he was still living with Ann.
He was still living, exactly. So
Okay.
he was going back and forth. Like
Okay.
if him and Stephanie have a disagreement, he was at Ann. Him and Ann was having a disagreement, he was at Stephanie's.
All right. So he had his cake. How do they put it? He had his cake and wanted to eat it too, or something like that.
Exactly, because she believed that he was changing.
Okay. And you said that their son, Tobias, was with them as well. Was with her.
Right, Tobias was living with her over here, but he kept the apartment over here.
Oh, okay. So
And
Tobias continued to live near you. Stephanie
Right.
ended up getting her own place where she was truly living by herself.
Exactly.
Okay. And how long would you say that happened before she disappeared?
2 or 3 months.
Not long. Okay.
Not long at all.
Okay.
Not long at all.
Okay. Now let's move up. We're going to talk about a couple things that were going on, also going off. That's not complex enough for the listeners. We need to talk about a couple more things, and we realize that at least one of these, it's I think one huge issue, but two things put together. And you still aren't sure what this was, but it seems in the weeks, if not months before Stephanie disappeared, there was something going on with paperwork between the two of them. Do you know? We don't. I should just tell the listeners. You don't know what this is about, do you? To this day.
No, to this day, I still don't know. I thought I would find some information going through her car and stuff, but I haven't found anything.
Okay. Do you even remember how long this I mean, how did you even know about it? You knew about it before she disappeared. How did you even know that there was something going on with some sort of paperwork that she wanted him to sign or whatever? How did you even know about it?
Well, the 8th, let me see. I would have to go back to when she spent the night with me.
Please do.
Okay, the 18th we was together. She had to go to the doctor to have
You're gonna have to be more specific. 18th of what month?
I'm sorry, of May.
Okay.
The 18th of May. It was a Friday. We got together because she had a doctor's appointment. She had a mask removed from her face in April. And that's in April is when she had the mask removed. So she had to spend the night with me for 2 days.
Okay.
He called her phone and I heard her voice getting loud saying, Tiger, you can go online to get that information. You don't need the papers. He also called my mom, telling my mom to call Stephanie and make her give him whatever papers that he was looking for. So later on that night, she jumped up. I heard her get up, go to the door, and she was outside. So I went outside. I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "Tiger and Ann was just over here, and Tiger had got the car, and he was looking at her car." And so I'm looking to see if he did anything to her tires, but her tires was fine. And then that's when she goes, "Well, I'm getting ready to go over to my apartment." I said, "No, you're not." I said, "Because we don't know what him and Ann is up to." So I had her to come back in the house. And I'm like, "What papers is he talking about?" And she said, "Oh, some papers that he needs to go to court on." And she said, "I keep telling him he can do like he did the last time, go on the computer and get the information."
And get the paperwork. But she wasn't specific if this had to do with, just to throw some ideas out there. We're not sure if this had anything to do with maybe being that they were married. Maybe she wanted to divorce him or something. We don't know if it had anything to do with that. We don't know if it had something to do with a crime maybe that he'd been charged with, like going to court. It could have had something to do with the apartment or anything. We don't know.
We don't know exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Do you think there's any reason that now that you look back at it now that Stephanie maybe wasn't a little more specific with you?
I think that he didn't want to tell me because, or maybe it's something he had said to her, because at that time my husband was out of town,
Mm-hmm.
so I was the only one here in the apartment. So
Mm-hmm.
he probably didn't want to get me involved, and they normally argue, call each other names, and make threats, but nothing ever happened. So when she went doing this, when she went missing, I don't think she saw it coming, because they always argue. He
Mm-hmm.
always say something, to her.
Right,
So
but
he took it
once again,
serious.
is there any reason you think that she was never specific about this paperwork? That she said this is the reason he is, is there any reason do you think that she withheld that from you?
No, no, I don't think it was.
Okay. All right. So we don't know that, but it was a point of contention. And do you have any idea um, how long this paperwork issue had been going on? You found out about it that night because she was at your house. But do you think that had been going on for a week, a month? Any idea?
It probably had been going on just for a few days.
Okay. All right. So, and one more thing before we get into the actual day of her disappearance. Was Tiger ever physically abusive to her? We realized they had arguments and everything, but do you think that he ever hit her, struck her, slapped her, kicked her, anything like that?
One time at the house that they was living in, they had a fight, and I remember the policeman saying that they used to have to come to the house um, for arguments, I guess from the other neighbors calling or whatever.
Okay. All right, but did you ever see her with any bruises, black eyes?
No,
No. Okay.
no black eyes.
Okay. So it sounds like a womanizer. Sounds like he's a criminal as well, but no signs, arguments. People have arguments, but not necessarily. Doesn't sound like physically attacking Stephanie in any way, at least from your point of view, and you were seeing her.
Right,
Okay.
because I wouldn't be around them a lot, because,
Okay.
like I said, didn't really care for them.
Okay. And did she ever express any fear of Tiger? That she was afraid that he was going to do something to her? And I give you a very good example. Sometimes, often women say, if anything ever happens to me, you should look at so and so. Did she ever say anything like that to you?
That's she has never said anything to me to let me know that she was afraid of him, or that something was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what upsets me, because, like I said, and it may be because, again, she's very protective of me, and she didn't want me to know.
Right.
So if it was something going on, she didn't want me to know. I do remember a couple of times when she was telling me that her phone, she would go to sleep with her phone in her bed, and on 2 occasions, she woke up, the phone wasn't there. And then when she would get it back, when it would reappear, all the text messages from her and Tiger would be erased. And I told her at that point, which was, I think it was in April, that she needed to change. If she's going to continue to stay over there, that she needed to change the locks on the door, or just come back to the apartment behind me.
Yeah. Right. So are you? So what you're saying is, are you left with the impression that he was sneaking into her place at night and taking her phone?
Yes, he was.
Wow.
Because he would tell me I would ask her, why you're not answering your calls? And she was like, I couldn't find my phone. The first time she came, she said, oh, I couldn't find my phone. I said, what do you mean you can't find your phone? She said, I went to bed with it, but I don't know what happened to it. And this was the first time. And then I said, well, just, look under the covers and stuff or look under the bed. And then when she would find it, all the messages that went back and forth with her and Tyler, they was erased. Then it happened the second time. Same thing.
Okay, and we have to remember that, as you've already stated, in this new place, the very new place that she was staying, the place that she was living in by herself when she disappeared, the tiger did have a key to it.
Correct. He was the
Okay.
only one that had the key to the apartment.
Okay. All right, so like you said, on May 18th, you had this incident where he was over at your place going into her car, or trying to get into her car. Did he have a key to her car too, that he could just go into it, or was it unlocked, or what?
Well, with her car, I had a set of keys to her car, but the occasion when he had came over to the apartment, that was in April when she had her surgery.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he was over here. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, he's the only one that had a key to her apartment, and I had a key to her car.
Mm. But you said that when he was over there that one night, you said that he was in her car. How did he get into her car?
Not in her car, but he was looking at her car.
Oh, he was looking at her car. Okay.
Yeah, I guess he had got out and he was standing there, and that's when she was getting up telling me Tiger's outside and he's by my car.
Okay.
So maybe he was thinking that the papers he could see, you looking through the windows, you trying to see what you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And when she opened up the door, that's when he ran, and he got back into his car and he took off.
Okay. All right. Okay, you had to be a little maybe freaked out about that, right?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was. Especially when she was talking about getting in her car and going to her apartment. I said, no, you're not going to do that. Just come back just come back in the house. And I told her then, you need to leave him alone. Don't call him. Don't talk to him when he calls you, because that kind of it freaks you out.
Of course. Of course. Okay, so let's move up to May 20th, 2018. It was a Sunday.
Yes, it was a
Okay.
Sunday.
Okay, what do you remember about that day from your point of view? What did you do that day? And then we'll get into, what we believe Stephanie did that day. What did you do that day? Do you remember?
Okay. Well, as you know, May 18 and May 19, we was together.
Mm-hmm.
May 20th, which was Sunday, it was a Sunday morning, and it was pouring down raining. I was at home. I was in bed watching TV. Stephanie called me that morning. She called me at 8:25 a.m. that morning, and she asked me what was I doing, and I told her I was laying in bed watching TV because it was raining outside. So she started laughing, and she said, yeah, that's what I'm doing too. She said, well, too bad we don't have money to go to the mall. I said, well, it doesn't matter because it's raining anyway. And she said, okay, well, I have to wash some clothes. So she when she hung up with me, I found out that she did wash clothes that morning because one of her neighbors.
Saw her.
Yeah, one of her neighbors saw her out there washing her clothes, but then no one saw her after that. No one saw her. No one heard anything. It's like she just vanished.
Okay. What time would you say that she was washing clothes, and what time do you believe is the last time that somebody, saw her or talked to her that day, approximately? What do you think?
I believe that as soon as she got off the phone with me Sunday morning, that she went out there and washed a load of clothes. But then after that, after they saw her go back in the house, they didn't see her. Nobody saw her or heard her.
Okay. Is there any record, do you know of anybody else that did talk to her? Any friends of hers? Any texts? Excluding, of course, Tiger, but people that we can trust. Any records of her talking or texting anybody that afternoon of Sunday, May 20th, 2018?
No, because they didn't they never did find her phone.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that they out is when they got a chance to check the records is that on May the 16th, it was a text on there that included "Don't F and play with me, and be real careful about what you say come out your mouth." And that was on the text May 16th.
Okay. But on May 20th, once again, nobody has ever come forward to say, at 2 in the afternoon, I spoke to Stephanie on the phone.
And it was another text on May the 20th, her texting him
Okay.
saying that you hurt my mouth last night.
Any idea what that meant?
When the detective asked Tiger why would she say that, he told Detective Smith that, oh, she told me her mouth was hurting, and I told her what to use to make it stop hurting.
Was she having a toothache? Did she have she's maybe a little old for wisdom teeth? What kind of problem could she have been having with her mouth that would have been hurting her? And I'm keeping in mind that you actually saw her 2 days before that, or the day before. Did she complain about anything regarding her mouth?
Well, remember, she was her mouth was healing from that mask being removed in April.
Okay. But it was still a month later. I would think it wouldn't hurt anymore.
My point, exactly. I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I was talking to the detective about. I'm like, her mouth wasn't bothering her anymore,
Mm-hmm.
which means he hit her or he grabbed her by the mouth.
Well, maybe it means that. We just aren't sure. We don't know that for a fact.
But I know her mouth wasn't hurting her anymore.
Oh, okay. All right. So when you saw her the day before, she wasn't complaining about her mouth. But how do we know that text even happened? If it happened on May 20th and her phone's never been found, how do we know that text happened on the 20th?
The detectives was able to get warrants to look at her messages that they could retrieve from the phone, and those was the ones that they were able to get off her phone, was the one from May the 16th and from May the 20th.
Okay, but how did they get it from her phone if her phone's never been found?
You can get a warrant and go to the store where, I think it was it T-Mobile? She had Metro, so you can get a warrant and take it to them, and then they have a way of going in and retrieving what they can.
Okay.
Yeah, they can retrieve what they can from there.
Okay. So May 20th, there's this text. The mouth is hurting from the night before. But other than Tiger, anybody, once again, that we trust who talked to Stephanie that day?
No.
So if they did go in and retrieve this message, which I have to admit I'm a little suspect of, but no other messages to anybody else that day.
No.
Okay. Did you find it odd that you didn't hear from her the rest of that day?
Well, that was normal, because we were both, on Sundays we spend a little time together, and we don't talk to each other till later on in the middle of the week. So that's normal for us.
Okay.
Because we're together on the weekend, starting from Thursday night on, we're together.
Okay. So you didn't think it was odd. May 20th, you just talked to her in the morning. She said she was going to wash clothes, and you weren't very bothered that you didn't hear from her the rest of the day.
Correct.
Okay. When was the first time, though, that you thought something might be strange, odd, maybe a little worried that you hadn't heard from her? When was that?
That was um, the following Monday, which was the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
So the 21st, 22nd, so Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the kids had been calling her, but she didn't return their phone calls, which was kind of strange.
Mm-hmm.
And then I received a phone call on the 24th, which was Thursday evening. It was after 4 o'clock. Her coworker, Dana, called me and asked me, was Stephanie sick? And I said, no, she didn't call and tell me she was sick. And she said, well, she hasn't been to work since Monday.
Wow.
Now, this was like I said, when I talked to Dana, it was the 24th. It was Thursday already.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday
Yeah.
that she wasn't at work.
Yes. Okay. And what was her work? What job was she doing at the time? What was she?
She was working at Jackson Memorial Hospital.
Okay. Okay, so she didn't show up at Jackson Memorial Hospital for those 3 days, and then finally after work on Thursday, so she missed 4 days of work, is when somebody finally called you. How did this person, were you like on the emergency call list? How did this person end up reaching you?
I met Dana when Stephanie had her procedure on her mouth in April. Dana was with us.
Okay.
So what she did was she went and got Stephanie information, and my name was on there. She called me. So that's how she got in contact with me.
Okay.
And that day I left work and I went to my sister's apartment. The car was there, which is normal because she leaves her car at home and she gets on the bus to go to work. So I knocked on the door. I didn't get any answer. I went home and Tobias, her son, and his girlfriend was here. And I asked him, I said, hey, have you talked to your mom? I said, because they're saying that she hasn't been to work since Monday. And he said, no, I haven't talked to her. So by this time, the time has went by. It was in the evening when we went back over there because I said, well, maybe she should be at home. And I picked up the keys to her car because I always, like I said, I have the second set. We went back over there. We knocked on the door, knocking on the window, nothing. We went to they have a person who stays on the property, to look over the property and stuff.
Yeah.
I knocked on his door and I told him what was going on. And I asked him, was his father at home? And he said his father wasn't there. So we told him to call his dad and ask his dad, can he, which is his son, let us just look in there to make sure that, Stephanie wasn't passed out because we haven't heard from her and the job, said that she didn't show up. So the father said, yes, just let them look in, tell them don't touch or move anything. So when we went in, we didn't touch anything. We called out for her name. We walked in the bedroom. She was not there. So we left Friday morning. I went back over there and I called the police to report that she was missing. And so the thing about with the policeman is when you call and you tell them that somebody is missing, they find out that, okay, she's not ill, she's not on any kind of meds, anything. The first thing they say, oh, well, maybe she needed to get away.
Right. That's true.
So that's the first thing that they think about. So I was telling them that no, she didn't need to get away or anything like that. And they was asking me about her because, they asked about, well, was she having any problems? Was she depressed? And the officer that I was talking to She was very nice. Her name was Linda. And we come to find out that I worked with her brother and everything. So she said, okay, Sylvia, she said, I want you to calm down. She said, now,
Mm.
you know, everybody have something going on personal in their lives. Has she ever been committed, this and that? She said, don't be embarrassed. She said, because it happens to the best of us. I said, well, one year, she did have to go and get committed. I say because she had a breakdown. She didn't try to kill herself or anything, but she had a breakdown. So she said, well, do you think it happened again? I said, no, because we had a long talk, and I asked her if it ever gets to that point to let to let the family know, even though we did check to make sure that she was not committed, had committed herself or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and I told her, I said, well, I looked in the car. I told her, I said, I found her wallet under her seat. I said, it has cash in it and all her ID. She said, huh? I said, yes. She said, well, why would your sister leave her wallet? I said, she has a habit of doing that. And she said, this doesn't sound like somebody just walking away, running away. She said, because that's cash. And it was it was $300 some. If you're gonna, walk away and say, listen, I'm tired of this, you're gonna at least take the cash.
Of course.
So yes, she left behind her wallet with her cash, with her ID. Car
Mm.
still there. It's your car. If you're gonna leave, you would take it. So finally, she's talking back and forth with her supervisors. They telling her, no, we still have to wait. Then finally Saturday morning, I meet up. With a detective Jeff. That Saturday, which was the 26th, he goes to the neighbors, talking to them, questioning them, and everything, trying to see what happened. Then, like a day or two, I'm assigned to Detective Smith and Detective Moretti, and they're going back over the case, trying to find out what happened to her. They go and get a pillowcases from her bedroom, toothbrush, anything with DNA, so that they can have it, for areas to search.
Okay. Let me jump in here for a moment, Sylvia. So it goes 4 days without anybody hearing from her. And then finally, this employee calls you. You go over there, you kind of knock around and knock on the door. You ask Tobias, her son, who is also the son of Tiger, if he's seen her, seen Stephanie. No, he hasn't heard from her. Then you manage to get the landlord, I guess, or the building manager, or whoever, to get into her place. When you went in there, did you see anything that seemed odd to you when you went into her apartment? Anything out of the ordinary?
No, nothing was out of the ordinary. Nothing was knocked down or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Were the clothes that she washed, were they folded and put away, or were they in a pile?
So even the clothes was still laying out drying.
Okay, so
So
she.
it proves that she did, like one of the neighbors said, that she did wash.
Okay, but she didn't dry.
She laid her clothes out so that they can just dry on their own. It was
Okay.
like her uniforms from work.
Okay, so there wasn't. So she would wash them, but she would air dry them. She wouldn't. There wasn't a dryer there.
Dryer.
Where it tumbles,
Yeah, it was
tumbles,
a
tumbles.
dryer. They had the dryer there, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess somebody was probably using it, so she decided to just lay her clothes out and just let them dry natural.
Okay, and did you also tell me that when you went in there that you saw that there was food in a pot, or there were some things out? What was regarding that?
In the kitchen, it was some food that was on a stove that she didn't clean up or anything like that.
Did it look like she was done eating, or does it look like she was starting to eat?
Probably that she was done eating.
She was done. Okay.
Right.
And was her bed made, or was it tossed?
Her bed wasn't made up.
Okay. Okay.
So it's like you just getting out of bed, but you didn't make up your bed.
Okay. So, but her clothes are, some of her work uniforms are lying there and
drying.
So
So it's
maybe a
not like she
little,
didn't have intentions to go to work.
right. Well, all I'm saying is that it's a little hard to tell from that information if she disappeared in the afternoon, in the evening, in the night. We
In the
just don't.
evening.
Yeah,
Correct.
it's hard to tell.
And then the 21st, which was but the not the 21st, but then the Monday, that following Monday, what I did, I called and I talked to the Detective Smith and I asked them could they find out if she ever got on the bus, because
Mm-hmm.
there's cameras on the bus.
Yeah.
So what they did get that, and they had someone to sit down to see if Stephanie had even gotten on the bus that morning, and she never did get on the bus.
Okay.
They looked at the camera. They looked at it from the morning to the evening, and she never got on the bus.
Okay. Now, in all these days, we have to keep in mind, if we are to believe that the disappearance date is May 20th, 2018, a Sunday, you went those 4 days and then a few more days before the police got involved. At any point, did Tiger's name come up in any of this?
Well, with the detectives, what they do, they ask about who she hang out with,
Mm-hmm.
in boyfriends or whatever. So when I gave them Tiger's name, what they do, they go and they look, they do a back look at the background. They interviewed him on and off, because every time they interviewed him, his story would change. He failed the
How do you know that? How do you know that his stories would change?
Detective Smith told me every time they would speak with him, his story, it would be something different.
Okay.
He also said that Tiger told him that he hadn't spoken or seen Stephanie in a month, which they found out that was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he failed the polygraph test, which you can't use in court. But like
Mm-hmm.
I said again, his story kept changing every time they would bring him in. And then at one point, he called Detective Smith's supervisor and said that Detective Smith was bothering him or whatever. So at one point, Detective Smith could not bring him in and question him anymore. It had to be someone else to question him.
Okay. During those days, once again, you really didn't find out that Stephanie was missing until Thursday. Are we then to believe that Tiger never tried contacting her in those days? Of course, he never contacted you. Hey, I've been trying to call Stephanie and she's not calling me back. Nothing like
He
that.
doesn't.
Nothing like that happened.
He doesn't. I'm sorry. He doesn't have my number.
Oh, he doesn't.
So the sad thing is, he has his son's telephone number.
Mm-hmm.
Tobias called Tiger Thursday, which is when, like I said, when we found out that she hadn't been to work, and he was telling his Tiger, "Hey, have you talked to my mom?" He even told Tobias, "Oh no, I haven't saw or spoken to your mom in a month," which was the month of May, lying to his son. And so Tobias goes, "Where are you? Because she's missing." So Tiger tells him that, "Oh, I'm out of town right now," because they were going. Him and his family was going to someone's funeral in Tennessee, which the Detective Smith found out that, okay, yes, that Tiger was there, but you can't tell me where you was at Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday before you left town. So
Okay.
Tiger tells Tobias that, okay, when I come back, I'm gonna help. I'm gonna get back with you, and I'm gonna help find out where your mom is at. He never did.
Okay.
We
So we'd understand that when Tiger was finally tracked down, what days was he in Tennessee? for this funeral that you know of?
No, that they left Thursday,
They left
which is May
Thursday.
the 24th.
So the day that you were finding out that Stephanie was missing is the exact day that they left for Tennessee.
Exactly.
Okay.
And he told his son Tobias that he had to get another cell phone because he broke the one that he had at first.
Okay. All right. And so then are we also to understand that when the police finally did track down Tiger, did they call him? Was he in Tennessee, or by the time they tracked him down, had he already come back to Florida?
He had already came back to Florida, and
Okay.
that's when they started interviewing him.
Okay.
And asking him questions. And he told them the same thing, that he didn't speak to Stephanie in a month and he hadn't seen her.
Okay. And did he ever offer up any alibi as to where he was on May 20th, the day that we accept as the day she disappeared?
No, he didn't.
No. Okay. All right. So those are the main points of what went on. The police getting involved, them looking into her apartment, them talking to you, them giving him a lie detector test. So let's just jump a little deeper into some of these things, starting with the car. Being that you were the one that you had an extra set of keys to the car, is that correct? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And it is a little odd, I have to say. Maybe you need to explain this to the listeners again, that Stephanie would keep her wallet with money in her car under the seat.
Well, instead of carrying a purse, which she did have one in the trunk, but it was much easier sometimes for her to just take her wallet when she's going somewhere, and she would put it underneath her seat. But when she gets out to go into the house, she would take it. She would go in the seat and take it out.
Okay. All right. And how close was her car usually parked to her apartment? How long of a walk was it from the front door of her apartment to where her car was?
Oh, it was just a few steps, and I'm talking about few steps because her apartment was like on the end where the her parking space was at. So you're talking about a few steps.
So very close. Very close.
Very close.
Okay. In your opinion, when you went into her car, did it look like anybody else had possibly been in it?
No, it didn't show any signs, but what the detectives did do, they told her, because she had a car and a truck, SUV. Her SUV was at her son Philippe's apartment. So what they did, they told both vehicles to the police station to go through it to make sure it wasn't no blood, or see if they can get any evidence to show that something happened in the vehicles.
Okay.
And so they didn't find anything in the vehicles.
We have this car. Doesn't look like it was tampered with. Did it look like maybe didn't look like anybody else had been driving it? And your impression is that it had been sitting there since the day she disappeared that Sunday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so now let's talk about the phone and her phone. And this is a very unique situation I think we have here. But to be clear, to this day, her phone has never been found.
Her phone has never been found.
Okay. But the police did tell you something strange about it seems like it was still on, and why don't you tell the listeners about the pings and how they relate to the pings for Tiger's phone.
Okay, on the 22nd of May, her phone and his phone pinged at the same location in Sunrise. So one time in Sunrise, and then another time when he was going from her apartment to his apartment back and forth. And then they had like pings of areas that he would go into. But when they would go and check the areas, they couldn't find anything. They couldn't find her phone. When they questioned Tiger about her phone, he couldn't explain how the two was together. He felt that he was being set up.
Is that right? And what would this Sunrise location? What location would this be? Is this a specific location? Is it special? What is it?
Um, one of the locations was in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. But do you know what that location was? Do you know if it was his house, an apartment? Was it Ann's place? Was it a restaurant? Do you even know? Do you know?
I don't know. But
Okay.
the other location was when he was going from Stephanie's apartment to his apartment back and forth. And then it would just turn off.
Okay. So what you're saying is the pings show that her phone and his phone were going back and forth between her apartment and his apartment for 2 days.
Correct.
And what days were those?
I'm thinking it was Monday and Tuesday because he said 2 days straight.
Okay. Okay, so
Never explained to them how
okay.
both phones was together.
Okay. Huh. And so Tiger's explanation is that that's a lie and he's being set up by police.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Have you ever, I know that you've talked about these two texts, one from the 16th and one from the 20th, that was concerning her mouth, but have you ever seen the records, like the physical records, like with phone numbers, like we would get on a phone bill? Has anybody ever gotten those records?
I know they had some records and stuff that my daughter was reading, which they made public to the news people because I was having interviews and stuff with them, so they made it knowledgeable for them to be able to get into the records to see everything, to explain so that they would know why they were saying that Tiger was the only person of interest.
Okay. But you've never seen the records. No, whatever her phone company was, nobody has gotten those phone records.
Right.
Okay. The only thing that we know about him is we are to believe that somehow police got these two texts, one from the 16th and one from the 20th. Other than that, we don't know anything about.
They were able to get the warrants, and that's when they put the information out there in the for the news people, and it ended up being on the in the newspaper.
Okay. All right. So these pings, but still to this day, no idea where the phone was, and I guess what you're saying also is that the phone, those pings and everything, ceased pinging after the 22nd, which would have been a Tuesday.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Now I do want to revisit something.
Sorry.
Please.
I'm sorry. We did search an area, but that was in October.
I want to ask you one more thing though about the phone situation. I want to go back to what you said, but your impression, Stephanie told you that she believed that somebody was erasing messages on her phone.
You know what you're texting people, you know what I'm saying? So when she would get her phone back, it wouldn't be on her phone.
Of course. Did she at no time suspect that somebody, maybe Tiger?
She knew it was Tiger. No,
she knew it was.
It was him.
Okay.
Because she would be sleeping. When she woke up, her phone, she would be looking for her phone. And the first time she thought it was just her. She looked for her phone. She said, well, okay, I'll find it later. And then I think it was the next day that she actually found it. And then it happened again. It happened twice.
Okay.
So she knew it was him.
Do you know if she ever confronted him regarding that and asked him about that?
She never told me if she talked to him. So if she did, she didn't tell me.
Okay.
But that's what I told her. It was time for her to change her locks or move from over there.
Okay. Now, regarding that apartment complex, you're certainly going to have to explain to the listeners again why Tiger, if they weren't a couple, he's with another woman, she's living by her, Stephanie's now living by herself. Why did he have an apartment key at all?
I think that he probably told her that, okay, and like I said, I think that he probably told her that they were going to get back together. Because why would you give somebody, if you all just going to remain friends, then you don't need to have my key to my apartment.
I agree.
So he had to have told her that they were going to be together, but then because she's not with him and she's at work, he's sneaking over there with Ann.
Okay.
And he's probably telling Ann something else, and he's coming, by him going back and forth.
Right. Okay. Right, and of course, having the apartment key would have allowed him to sneak into Stephanie's apartment when she's home.
Exactly. He could come and go.
Yes.
That's who you have the key.
Sure. Absolutely. It's like it's his own place, even though it's not.
Yeah, because he even had some of his stuff there. He had tools there. He had clothes there.
All right. And speaking of, if he was going back and forth, if we are to believe these pings and him going back and forth, his phone pinging back and forth between wherever he was living with Ann and going back to Stephanie's, did the police or you ever talk to anybody in the apartment complex who saw him there?
The attendant saw him, that he told the detective that he was outside screaming, trying to knock on the door for Stephanie. And then it was another time that he said that he saw Tiger come in, grab some stuff, and leave out real fast. But then when the detectives went back to speak to the guy, he changed his story. And told the detectives, I said, I know why he changed his story. He's afraid of Tiger, because he admitted to me when we went to clean out the apartment that he was sorry that my sister was missing. And he said to me, I'm glad that Tiger is not going to be coming over here anymore.
Because he was afraid of Tiger. Why was he afraid of Tiger?
I don't know if it's things that he heard or if Tiger said something to him, but that's what he told me.
Okay. So I guess what we're saying is that if this person's going to change their story to say that he wasn't there, I guess then we're just to believe that between the 20th and after that nobody saw Tiger at that apartment complex.
Right.
Okay. Do you think it would have been possible, the way you know that apartment complex, for him to get in there and without being seen?
Because he knows the area. He knows what time to go over there. Because the night that they took me over with them to look at the apartment, it was after 10 o'clock. And Tiger goes, see, there's nobody ever out here after 10 o'clock. It's quiet. And it was very quiet. And he was laughing and talking loud. I said, you're the only one out here that's making noise. And so he started laughing. And I said, yeah, it is really quiet out here. So the thing about him, what he does is he gets to know areas. He knows people's schedules. He knew my sister's schedule. So he didn't have to, if he wanted to get her out the house, he didn't have to, hit her upside the head or anything. And of course, this is just me saying, he could have had called her, told her to come outside and go somewhere with him.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying. This is just me. To get her out the house.
But nobody saw her that day either.
They only saw her that morning.
That morning while she was washing clothes, and there's proof that she completed washing her clothes because there were clothes back in her place.
Because her clothes was in her apartment laying out drying.
Right. So nobody saw Tiger that
After
day,
that, nobody exactly,
and
and
nobody
nobody
saw
saw her
Stephanie.
Monday.
Nobody saw Stephanie later that day.
Correct.
All right, so this could have been something, and I know that, the way we're pointing, but it very well could be that Stephanie just left on her own, too. Could be. There's no proof to show that Jack took her.
There's no proof.
No proof. Okay.
So everything else, far as the phones, the texts,
Mhm.
point to him changing his story every time he's questioned, points to him. He, like I told Detective Smith, he didn't do anything to prove to us that he had nothing to do with it. He didn't do anything to prove to their only child, their son, that he had nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm. Do you know, going back to the phone information, do you know if Tiger's phone pinged in the location of Stephanie's phone on the 20th? Could there be a phone ping proof that he was in the area of her apartment that day at some time? Do you know?
On the 20th, no, it was just that text
Just the text.
that she texted him on the 20th, May the 20th.
Okay, because what you've said is that there are proof that those two phones were together on the 21st and 22nd. And what I'm
Right.
asking is, did the police look into the possibility that those two phones were pinging together on the 20th?
No, the only thing they told me is that she texted him May the 20th.
Okay. All right. So just no proof. It would, because I would think that if their phones were pinging together on the 20th, that would surely prove that they were together. The two of them were together on the 20th, which would, push forward the idea that he did have something to do with the disappearance. But I'm not sure what to think of that. That it seems to me, if the police could get the pings for the 21st and the 22nd, they surely could have gotten the pings for the 20th too.
So I don't know what happened in there, but I know
Right.
just May the 20th is when she texted him.
Right. Well, you may want to look into that, Sylvia. See if what they can tell you about the ping information for the 20th. Just saying. Okay. Okay. This relationship between Tiger and Stephanie, as we've already talked about, complex. Seems like there was a love triangle going on here. Of course, we cannot forget about the other person in that triangle, and this is a woman. Her name's Ann, although like you said, her real name is Deborah. To your knowledge, has she ever said anything about the disappearance of Stephanie? Has she ever offered up an opinion? Have you ever talked to her? Have the police talked to her? What do you know?
Like the detectives did speak with Ann. They got a chance to get her by herself. And they told me that she was scared and she was crying. And when she got back with Tiger, then that's when her whole attitude changed, where she felt that she wasn't afraid anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But like when she was by herself, that's when she was scared and she was crying. Why are you crying? If you don't know anything, you haven't done anything, why are you crying?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So they were able to talk to her independently, and I guess at no point did she involve.
Did she involve herself or Tiger?
All right. And did she ever offer up any alibi for Tiger for May 20th?
That they didn't discuss with me, but they felt that she did know something, and that was the reason why she was crying. But without her saying anything, they couldn't prove. You couldn't prove it.
Okay. Okay, so we have that. And to your knowledge, are Tiger and Ann still together?
Oh yeah, they're still together.
Still together. All right.
Walking around like nothing ever happened.
Okay, and being that you do live in that area, do you ever have happen upon them? And maybe I should ask this: does Tobias, Tiger's son, of course Stephanie's son as well, does he have any interaction with Tiger? Has Tobias and Tiger ever talked about Stephanie's disappearance?
No, before she went missing a couple of months ago, they did see each other, and Tiger was over here, and that was again one of the times that something was going on with him and Ann, and he had spent the night over here. But ever since then, Tiger has not been over here or to talk to Tobias.
Wow. Okay. And how old is Tobias now?
Tobias is 21.
21. Okay, so what you're saying is he has essentially no relationship with his father, Tiger, now at all.
No.
Okay.
Because Tiger, I said, Tiger has not even come to him to even try to convince him that he didn't do anything to his mom.
Okay.
Or to prove, or to say, hey, well, we used to go to this place, or we used to go here. Nothing.
Okay. Now we'll take you back kind of to where all of this started, at least a little bit of this contentiousness between Tiger and Stephanie, and it has to do with this paper issue. When you went through her place and went through her car, did you ever find anything that could be related to this argument that they were having about paperwork?
No, I didn't find anything, and trust me, I was looking for any and everything to try to find out what happened to my sister, and I have not still been able to find anything. I even like when mail come for her, I try to look and see what's that. I open it up and I try to see what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so hard, and it hurts because we still don't have anything else to show what happened to her.
Right. It's just, I guess for the listeners, they have to understand that the reason I keep bringing this up is because if we are to believe that Tiger is responsible for this disappearance, it seems like it, but frankly, it's a lot of circumstantial stuff going on here. Other than this paper issue, it doesn't seem like they had much of a contentious relationship. Yes, it seems a little strange. She's married to him, but he's with another woman.
Right.
And it doesn't sound to me like Stephanie ever said anything to you about, getting divorced. Did she ever bring that up?
She mentioned it to her daughter, Erling.
Mm-hmm.
Erling is the one that told me that Stephanie did speak to her about getting on the divorce from Tiger.
Okay. But she never mentioned it to you?
She didn't mention it to me.
Okay.
She didn't, well, should I say she didn't get a chance to mention it to me.
Mm-hmm.
But before she went missing, Erling, which is her youngest daughter, said that she did speak with her mom, and that my sister told her that she was going to get a divorce from Tiger.
Okay. Well, maybe those are what the papers were involved. Dealt with. It's just, I have to admit, it's a little surprising to me, as close as you two were, that she wouldn't mention it. Of course, she didn't tell you she got married either. So, maybe I'm totally off.
Because she knew how I felt about him.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if she hung out with him, it wasn't over here.
Right.
It's like a few times that I would see her with him, and that would be them leaving or him going into her apartment.
Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm saying here is I think that what I'm doing is I'm still, and maybe the listeners are doing this well, is I'm still searching for some sort of motive for the reason that Tiger would have wanted to do something to and harm Stephanie. It seems like it's a little bit of a weak point of this disappearance, even though he sounds like a horrible guy and a horrible father and a two-timer womanizer, and he's, a felon and everything else. They had known each other, for, 40 years or something.
Right. She knew his secrets, things that we didn't know about. And I believe she stumbled onto something. But I don't have the proof, so that's why I
Yeah.
can't say,
Right.
but
Okay.
I do know that she stumbled onto something, and she was telling her son, Philippe and his girlfriend about, but because they didn't look at it, we can't talk about it. So
Yeah, I'm not going to get into
right,
I'm not going to get
exactly. So
any
that's what I said.
conjecture and hearsay
Right,
and things like that.
right.
I
So
really don't
it
know what to
is,
say regarding all
but
that.
no, I just want the listeners to know that it's something stumbled on, but we can't talk about it because we don't have proof.
Okay.
So it's just something else that we can't, speak about because there's no proof.
Okay. But whatever it is, do you think this is something that Stephanie would have ratted him out on? Do you think that she would have gone to the cops regarding it, or do you think that
I think
she
that
just would have?
she was gonna let people know.
Okay. All right. Okay.
She was gonna let people know, but like you and I said, we can't talk about it
Yeah, we're not.
because we don't have the proof.
Right. It's just
I didn't actually see it.
right. Okay. Thank you for that.
I just want to clarify that.
I agree with that, and the listeners know we don't do theories and things like
Correct.
that on the program because once you start going in that direction, it's like open season on conjecture
Exactly,
and
and I'm not
guessing
gonna do
and
that.
everything.
Right.
Okay, but I have to admit to the listeners, I'm just going to be admit to them that it just seems a little thin, right at this second, but you don't necessarily need to have a motive to prove that a crime was committed. What's this been like for you? It's been a year, approximately year and about 3 months. Coming up on the 20th of August will be a year and 3 months. What's this been like for you, being her sister, Sylvia?
And it's hard. It has been hard on me and my family and my nieces and my nephews.
Mhm.
I, I really miss her. I know my mom and my family miss her. Everybody is going through their own thing. It's um, like with my nieces and nephews here, we don't see each other because everybody is going through their own ordeal and trying to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's very, it's very hard. Uh, I'm from Chicago, and when you walking by yourself and stuff, you learn to be aware of your surroundings. So by me not knowing who's involved and who did what, that's something good to make sure you're aware of your surroundings. In case somebody try to come up on me or my nieces and nephews because we don't know who's all involved. It hurts. It really hurts because how do you just disappear and nobody knows anything, nobody's seen anything? I know he know what happened to my sister. Even if he didn't do it himself, he knows. He knows deep down in my heart, and it may only be a little evidence out there, but the sad thing is, it points to him. He has not even tried to prove that he had nothing to do with it. Why lie? Why lie and say that you have not seen or spoken to her in a month when you have? You have, but because the case, the things that we have come up with, a good lawyer can get him off, it's still not right because he is involved.
Mhm.
You have a son. Now he feels like he lost his mom and you because you're not even trying to be involved and help him get get through to help him to find out what happened to his mama.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done anything wrong, why haven't you tried helping us find her? You have done nothing. And nobody knows how we feel and what we're going through unless it has happened to you. It's a nightmare. I wake up every morning. It's like I know I believe in God and I know what God has done for me, but I wake up questioning.
Yeah.
Because
It tests your faith.
it tests, yeah, my faith is being tested every day. Every day. I can be sitting at work doing my job and I just start crying because I'm hurt. It hurts. It hurts real bad.
Yeah. Okay.
On the, like I said, on the weekends, starting at Thursday evenings on into Sunday, we're together. That's our time together. And if you haven't been through it before, pray, pray to God and thank Him.
Yeah.
Because it's a hurting feeling that you can't even eat. There's nothing to make it feel better until you get answers. And we don't have the answers.
Would you say that this is an ongoing investigation? Of course, it's only a year and some months old. It's very, very new in Unfound's world. Of course, I cover cases that are 20, 30, 40 years old. But would you say that the police are still working on this? Do you talk to them often? What would you say?
Yes, I do. I stay in touch with Detective Smith. He stays in touch with my mom. He promised my mom that he was not going to give up until we know what happened to my sister.
And do you believe that the police continue to take a long look at uh, Tiger, who once again his real name is Jack Freeman? Long look at him.
Yes,
Okay. What has
yes.
Tiger done with his life since this happened in May of last year? Has he been back to jail? What's he done?
I haven't heard anything about him going to jail or anything. Um, some of the areas I was told that he used to hang out at, he doesn't hang out there as often like he used to.
Hmm.
Because me and my family, we still continue putting up flyers to let people know that she's still missing. And my nephew was telling me, and my niece was telling me that people were saying that he doesn't hang out like he used to at some of the places
Hmm.
that he used to hang out at.
Because of word kind of getting out
Yeah,
regarding,
because people are
possibly his
finding out
involvement.
that he's involved in my sister's missing. Right.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Do you
So
have a
yes.
website or a Facebook page set up for Stephanie, Sylvia?
No, what I do is on my Facebook page, I send out pictures of her that I have on the flyer, and I have one that where his picture is next to her, letting them know that he's still the only person of interest.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I post that every day
Okay.
just to let people know, and they share it all over, all over, because she could be in, uh, just in case she's found or anything, they can look at the picture and see that she's missing from Florida.
Okay. Well, you might want to think about setting up a Facebook page for her, Sylvia. Certainly on its own raised a profile of her disappearance. More people, find out about it, and can find it. Just
Right.
a thought. Of course, you do what you want. If you're not familiar on how to do that or how to set that up, I know that some of my listeners have helped other guests set up Facebook pages for their first time. So, you may want to think,
Okay.
you may want to think about that because, if you set that up and then if people were to do a Google search for Stephanie and her disappearance, then of course the Facebook page pops up and it really raises the awareness.
Right.
So you may think about that. Just a suggestion.
Okay.
And of course, if you're in the discussion group on Facebook, then you can coordinate that with maybe some other people if if you're interested in that.
Right. Because we do share I do share her pictures and stuff on Facebook, and I have other people who live elsewhere. My daughter asked them to share the pictures with friends and stuff
Sure,
who live
sure,
other places.
sure. Okay.
And then, I had the interviews with the different news people, news channel people. So that kind of helped also.
Yeah. Good. And yes, you've been getting out there. You've done some local interviews there.
Right.
Okay. Good. Good. Any final words before we complete this interview, Sylvia?
I just want people to continue to say a prayer for me and my family that we find my sister and find who took her,
To find out
to
what
just
happened.
keep us to find out what happened and to keep us in their prayers.
Okay, Sylvia. Well, now that you've been on the program, I've told this to other guests that you're now part of the Unfound family. And of course, even though I will move on to other cases in the next weeks and months, um, we're going to be friends for a long time. And,
Okay.
I'm always going to be here to help you in any way that I can, the listeners as well, until, you can bring Stephanie home. All
Okay.
right. So
Thank you very much.
you can always let me know what's going on and let me know if I can, do anything for you.
Okay, I will.
Okay, Sylvia. I deeply appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound.
Thank you very much, Albert.
You're welcome.
And that was my interview with Sylvia Ray, sister of Stephanie Clemons. I thank her for joining me and all of you on this episode. As I listened to the interview with Sylvia again, I realized I could have named this episode something else. Gaslighting. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means besides the obvious definition, that is? The term comes from a 1938 British play, Gaslight, that was then turned into 2 films. It's a story about a husband who manipulates his wife into thinking she is going insane. I've not seen the play or the films, but Wikipedia says he does this by causing the gaslights to seemingly brighten and dim all on their own. In addition, creating the sound of footsteps in their apartment when no one else is there but her, etc. Of course, the entire plot is wrapped around an unsolved murder. Big surprise. I think Jack Tiger Freeman was gaslighting Stephanie Clemons, although I'm not saying he's familiar with that term. He was sneaking into her apartment at night, taking her phone, deleting messages. And my guess, he was trying to gaslight her that night when he was at Sylvia sniffing around Stephanie's car. I'll go even further to suggest that the whole quote-unquote paper chase that they were involved in might have been manipulation on his part as well. We can't forget, Sylvia did say Stephanie had a breakdown at one time. Tiger might have thought he could exploit that to his own advantage. Maybe he was trying to cause Stephanie to break down again. However, I think the title for this episode still works. Gaslighting is about control. Controlling a person's mind to the point of destroying it. And my guess is Jack, whether he murdered Stephanie or not, is controlling the mind of the other side of this triangle as well. The woman known as Anne. I hope she realizes soon that she can turn that gas off anytime. I'll leave the rest of the theorizing up to you. And that's the program. If you found it informative, please go to the app that you use to listen to Unfound and give this podcast a nice review. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Dentzel, and you've been listening to Unfound.